warm welcome to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuloko. Permit us to begin this episode by saying a very, very big Barika de Salah to President Muhammadu Buhari. Mr. President, we are happy to have you back and we are happy to be celebrating Salah with you. And to our Muslim compatriots all over the country, Barika de Salah. We thank God Almighty for sparing our lives to witness yet another celebration. Many have gone. And in the spirit of the season, in the spirit of the celebration, we're going to make today's episode of Tax Matters as light-hearted as possible, while not forgetting our reason for coming on air. Taxation. 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 You know that the Federal Inland Revenue Service is very good at going out to educate the populace about the reasons for paying taxes, where to pay, when to pay, and how to pay. But it's a two-way affair. Many stakeholders also pay visits to the various tax offices across the country, and especially to Revenue House, the headquarters of the FRS in Abuja. And today on Tax Matters, we're going to tell you stories of some of the visits that have taken place in the recent weeks to Revenue House, Abuja. Welcome once again. Here we go. The first story is the story of the visit of the West African Student Union Parliament, WASUP, which came visiting at Revenue House on Thursday, the 8th of June, 2017. The WASUP delegation was received on behalf of the Executive Chairman of the FRS by Mr. Peter Henna, Coordinating Director, Support Services Group at the FRS.
We are really delighted to have you around. It is our goal, our mandate, to ensure that revenues collectible for the Federation are done at the most efficient manner, optimally, so that we can finance our budget. In Africa now, you will notice that our resources, our natural resources are going lean, and particularly for countries that are engaged in the extractive industry. For us, the oil industry, you will notice too that the oil prices have come down, and so we have no other choice other than to rely on the traditional method of financing government, which is taxation.
What you may ask is the West African Student Union Parliament all about, and why were they at Revenue House?
The West African Student Union was the first black student movement in Africa, though it started abroad in 1925. But we're here today to salute the years of a ceaseless commitment of a distinguished African by name Tunde Fowler, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, in his contribution toward the development of the revenue system, right from Lagos and today at the national level. We applaud him and we see him as a shining light. Our presence here today indicates that the life of Mr. Tunde Fowler constitutes a building block in the advancement of the revenue system of the Federal Republic. One of the problems of West Africa and the entire Africa is that we do not appreciate the efforts of people. It is that attitude of not appreciating people that we're trying to reverse. So many bursts of internal revenue in their states are battling with the Economic and Financial Crime Commission. But the man from the largest state board of internally generated revenue, instead of the normal picture of what is painted about us today, was alleviated from that status to the national, indicating high sense of financial prudence and administrative acumen. We cannot afford to dissociate ourselves and this generation from this distinguished person.
The Kwame Nkrumah Exemplary Leadership Award was presented to Mr. Babatunde Fowler. The certificate and the plaque were received on his behalf by Mr. Henna. Again, on behalf of the Executive Chairman, Mr. Henna made presentations to the visitors. Exemplary leadership indeed, and it shows. We say big congratulations to Mr. Babatunde Fowler. The very following week, precisely Wednesday, June 14, another group of stakeholders came calling at Revenue House. This time, the Association of Forensic and Investigative Auditors in Nigeria, AFIN. Welcoming the visitors, the executive chairman drew a link between the work of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and that of forensic auditors.
I'm sure you're aware, just like all other Nigerians are aware, that the challenge before us is to fund a 7 trillion budget. And when we say fund a 7 trillion budget, some people might say part of it has to do with debt. But they forget to realize that that debt has to be paid. And that debt can only be paid by revenue generated internally. Certainly, it is clear, not only to Nigeria, but to Africa, that the sale of raw or natural resources cannot sustain our budgets. And so now we're looking inward. We're trying to make sure that our non-oil revenue through taxation comes to the forefront. And of course, we have found out, unfortunately, that only through thorough auditing can we get the true position of the taxes that are due to the country. As a body, we had tried to encourage self-assessment, whereby we hoped and believed that the corporate organizations, and including the private businessmen, would come clean with full disclosures. So when you said you're coming to pay a visit, the first thing that came to my mind, that in this challenging period, we'll certainly need the skill of the forensic audit teams that you're bringing on board. We have since put in the papers the need to do certain audits, both at the state level, state government levels, and other private sectors. At the same time, I'm sure that as we partner together, we'll make sure that we will put the country in a position that from now on, that we'll be able to fund not only the current, but subsequent budgets through internally generated revenue through the area of taxation.
Leader of the AFIAN delegation, Mrs. Victoria Eneakpe, gave a brief history of the Association of Forensic and Investigative Auditors in Nigeria.
My chairman, I want to appreciate you first and foremost for the good work you are doing. It is all over, and it has touched every person, including us. We have watched you keenly for the past few years, right from when you were the chairman and the CEO of LRS in Lagos. You have done so much, and I would like to appreciate you for sparing time out of your busy schedule to listen to us today. I also want to thank you for the brilliant and intelligent innovations put in place when you were there in Lagos. You were the first person that brought about the drastic increase in IGR to average of 20.5 billion naira per month in the year 2014. We were not surprised as well at your elevation to the current position as the executive chairman of FRS currently, because the reward of hard work and diligent work, they say, is more tasking work. Now, Association of Forensic and Investigative Auditors in Nigeria is a worldwide leading forensic audit and investigation and premier provider of anti-fraud and forensic training and education. Together with our members, AFIA is providing forensic and audit skills worldwide and inspiring public confidence in the integrity and objectivity within the profession. Our vision is transparency in audits that engenders confidence and trust in accounting/auditing process and reporting. I would like to conclude by saying that Nigeria must move at par with other countries of the world by adopting forensic and investigative audit if the fight against corruption must see the light of the day.
The executive chairman was given the AFIAN Fellowship Award.
We are here to confer on you AFIA Fellowship Award.
In rounding up, Mr. Fowler pledged the support of the Federal Inland Revenue Service for the efforts of AFIAN.
Certainly, we will partner with you. We believe that you can never train your staff enough. And like I said before, we have gone into the area of audits because we have found out that during the era of self-assessment, we have not truly got the full disclosure as expected from a majority of taxpayers. So I believe your request for partnership has come at a very good time. It's the same vision that we have, and that is to, I don't want to use the same phrase, but there's really no other way of doing it, but to make Nigeria great. A lot of people see tax evasion and don't call it a fraud, but it is a fraud. When people put forward wrong figures or misleading figures to underpay in taxes, it is a major fraud. And I think that once we have been able to build up our capacity with your assistance, I think in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have reached that point whereby the self-assessment regime will be able to come back into Nigeria. But until then, we'll certainly require your assistance, and we are willing to support your organization any way that we can.
There was exchange of gifts on both sides, while the certificate and plaque for the award were presented to Mr. Fowler.
It's a new dawn in Nigeria, and the mantra is change. The wind of change is blowing all over Nigeria and beckons to you. One sure way to respond is to perform your civic duty, pay your tax. With taxes, government generates revenue to fulfill its electoral promises, ensure regular power supply, provide good security, standard education, medical care, true total change. Individuals and corporations enjoy specific benefits, rights and privileges for paying taxes and avoid the consequences and penalties of not paying. Oil revenue is no longer sufficient to bring desired change, but your tax can. It pays to pay your tax. A message from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Let the young ones come to me, the Lord said in the scriptures. And that's exactly what the executive chairman of the FRS, Mr. Batunde Fowler, is known for doing. Mr. Fowler's support for efforts aimed at catching them young in this quest for voluntary tax compliance is legendary. Under his command, the FRS supports every and any event organized to educate and enlighten young ones on the imperatives of paying taxes. On Thursday, the 22nd of June 2017, a delegation from the Vivian Fowler Memorial College for Girls in Lagos came visiting at Revenue House in Abuja.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service is responsible to fund government at all levels. In Nigeria, we have 3 tiers of government: federal government, state government, and local government. And on a monthly basis, based on the taxes that we generate, it is shared at a meeting once a month, and usually that is what the government, each tier of government, used to run its activities. To date, over 30 states or more rely on the money that we collect from FIRS, and any month where we don't collect enough revenue, then there are problems in terms of finance. So that is the role that we play. We collect mainly corporate tax. When it comes to individuals, pay tax or tax that is paid by individuals on income earned, that usually goes to the state governments. But the federal government or the Federal Inland Revenue Service basically funds the country on a monthly basis. Now, before now, when the oil price was high, the country and the people used to rely on oil sales. And anytime we sold a lot of oil, then we had an average of 2 million barrels being pumped per day at an average price of over $100 relied on oil. The oil price has crashed, and so now we have no other means than through taxation. So we are leading a campaign to make sure that all corporate entities and all adults who earn income or make a profit pay their taxes. And so basically that is our mandate. We're expected to fund the current year budget and also subsequent budgets, even if the oil price were to increase. The government of Nigeria and the people have taken a position that every good citizen of Nigeria that earns an income, or every corporate organization that earns a profit should pay taxes to make sure that we can present to you a better Nigeria.
The executive chairman performed his usual test on young visitors to Revenue House, and he got this surprise.
And I usually run a little test to find out where we are in terms of service delivery. I'll ask the students to my left, 3 of you, to give me answers. If you had a choice of a place or a destination to go on holiday or to go to work, where would you choose? Any 3 of you?
Okay, I would like to stay in Lagos because because I like Lagos. There are a lot of opportunities here, just that a lot of people don't see them, but I do.
Maybe I should expand the question. Anywhere in the world. Anybody else?
I would like to stay in Abuja.
Well, you might be wondering why we're clapping for you. This is the first group that we have met in Revenue House that have chosen Nigeria as their first choice and place of destination.
Mrs. Funke Fowler Amber led the young ones to Revenue House.
On behalf of the staff, management, and students of Vivian Fowler, we feel extremely honored about being here today, because one of the key things at Vivian Fowler is that when it comes to education, we emphasize a holistic education, and we appreciate the fact that our children travel a lot and they see what's going on in the country, so that we push for them, as they've honestly answered to you, that they love their country. And one thing that we do is that we arrange about 4 foreign trips a year. So they travel a lot, but we make sure that they appreciate our country, Nigeria, and I'm so glad that they do. And they are, as you know, the leaders of tomorrow, and them coming to the FIRS building and knowing that this kind of building does exist in their nation does go a long way, because we know that tomorrow, we know they're going to be the changers of our great nation. Thank you for having us. We appreciate your hospitality, and we do pay our taxes. Thank you.
In keeping with the objective of the visit, which is an educational expedition, the young ones were given the opportunity to clarify issues.
I would like to know if, when you're paying your taxes, is it from the citizens to the government of the country they're staying in, and then it goes to the FIRS company?
Okay, basically, like I said, we have 3 tiers of government. We have the Revenue Board at the center, which is the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and each state government also has a Revenue Board. So for the corporate organizations, once they make a profit, they pay their company income tax. Those in the oil industry pay their what we call the PPT, petroleum profit tax. And for the individuals, once you're earning a salary or you're in business and you make a profit, you pay your tax to the state governments. So as an agency, we don't collect the money directly. The money goes to the Central Bank of Nigeria, to what we call the Federation account. And from the Federation account, it is shared every month between the federal government, state governments, and local governments. So we look at the figures on paper. We generate the money by issuing what we call assessments on taxes to be paid. And where companies don't pay, then we have the right to close those companies down. Yes, to make sure that they do pay. That's how it operates.
There is a main problem I've noticed, and that is the issue of tax evasion, because a lot of people believe that if they pay their taxes, they won't be used for anything good, or they just believe they don't see it. So right now, what is happening to stop this misconception?
Even a lot of adults believe the same thing, that if they pay their taxes, it will not be put to good use. The present government that we have, I won't say in power, but the present government that we have has also realized that, and has promised the Nigerian people that any revenue spent will be to the benefits of all the citizens. And we'll be giving you some documents and information to show you what the tax revenue has been used for. States that we can use as an example is Lagos. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the changes within Lagos in terms of the roads, in terms of the security arrangements, in terms of everyday living. 70% of those changes are being paid for from taxes, not from what they collect from the Federation accounts. So in this government, you'll start to see changes very soon. I might be able to pinpoint to a few that you might have noticed. If you look at the airports at where you landed, there's a bigger airport being put up. They're changing the services. The runway that you landed on had just been fixed a couple of months ago. Before now, the runway, unfortunately, had potholes. And when you landed in Abuja, you feel the potholes or you feel the bad runways, even on the plane. So now taking off, you have a smooth ride. It's safer. Security is better. The police and the army are being kitted effectively to make sure they keep each of us safe. So I think there's a change, and I'm sure before you grow to your next stage, which will be university, each of you will begin to feel the change going on in the country.
I would like to ask about the people who can't afford to pay their tax. What is your solution towards that, people that are poor in society?
You only pay tax when you earn an income or when you make profits. If you're poor and you don't have any money, you don't pay any taxes, but you can get a tax clearance certificate. It will be for what we call a nil amount, and that will enable you to do certain things. And one of the main reasons for tax, apart from funding government, is to ensure that everybody, both the rich and the poor, have safety, both the rich and the poor have health care, both the rich and the poor have good education. So where you have a group of individuals who, for one reason or the other, cannot afford those things, the government will step in and give them free education, free health care. The state you are coming from has free health care for children under 12. They have quite a number of schools which are also free. And I think slowly but surely, the country is beginning to look out for the needy people among us.
The visit ended with words of encouragement from officials of the FIRS.
I'm sure you like Abuja City, but it's pertinent for you to note that the city was built with revenue from taxes. Taxes that companies paid, taxes that individual workers paid, and that was how government built this city. And if more taxes are collected, Abuja and Lagos can be the most beautiful cities in the world. That's not to say that you shouldn't travel out, but it is important that we collect taxes, and that's what we do at FIRS. Our chairman is seriously driving improved collection so that government has access to more funds to build roads, to develop more infrastructure for the nation. FIRS employs only graduates, and we look forward to having you on board here, but you must first of all finish your course of studies in the secondary school, in the university, and come out with good grades, and come and join us on this side to collect more taxes for the nation. I wish you much success in your present endeavor and in your future endeavor.
On this side of the table, you can see ladies occupying responsible positions. So I think that alone is an inspiration to you. And the exposure you are getting, visiting a place like this, and understand you'll be traveling out, that also helps you to sharpen your perspective to life. You, by virtue of your education, you should be able to make choices that will take you far. Choices that will make us know that we have children that can really be our leaders for tomorrow. If we pay taxes, then we're able to hold our government responsible. Somebody asked there, what happens to poor people who cannot pay taxes? And rightly, part of the essence of collecting taxes is for equity, so that everybody can have a fair share of the wealth of the nation. So I hope you've picked up a few things from here, and looking at us from this part of the table, I hope that also encourages you in your educational exploits.
As you can see, that the ladies in FRS are doing fantastic jobs. Really, the sky is your limit. And who knows, one of you may be occupying that seat over there.
The young shall grow, just like the old will not stop growing. And we pray for you today that your business will not stop growing. Your business will prosper, and you will prosper in your family life. And of course, you will pay your taxes. Did I hear somebody say amen?